My name is Jason Koo. I am a developer advocate here at Sendbird. The first person I would like to introduce is my developer advocate colleague, Michelle Wong. Michelle's out of New York.
Hey, yeah, thanks for introducing me, Jason. My name is Michelle. I'm a developer advocate at Sendbird right now, and I've been I just joined recently this summer and been working on UIKit specifically within Sendbird. But yeah, next I'd like to introduce our other colleague, Minhyuk, and Minhyuk's actually going to be the one presenting the Code Cafe today. He's been with Sendbird for 2.5 years as an iOS engineer, and he's been involved actually in developing new products like launching the direct and group calls and rewriting all the code base for desk and chat in Swift as well, which is pretty awesome. So I know he spent time in the States, which is awesome, and he's currently based in South Korea. So with that said, I'll hand it off to Minhyuk and we can check out what he's been up to. So floor is all yours.
Hello. Hello, everyone. My name is Minhyuk. I am an iOS software engineer here at Sendbird, and I've been with Sendbird for about 2.5 years. And today I'm going to talk about, implementing Sendbird Calls and Chat and UIKit into your own application to create an experience similar to Clubhouse. And I'm very excited today to, introduce you guys to Sendbird Calls SDK.
Great. Okay, so Michelle is going to kick off. So Minhyuk has done a pre-recorded presentation for us. So while the presentation is going, you feel free to chat questions during, and we can probably answer it during the presentation. But again, if we don't, then we'll answer it during the Q&A. Okay, Michelle, when you're ready, we'll fire that up.
Okay, so let's get started. Hello, my name is Minhyuk Kim. I am an iOS software engineer here at Sendbird. And today I'm going to talk about how to power your own audio-based social app using Sendbird Calls. Okay, so today's agenda. First, I'm going to talk about what is Sendbird Calls. Second, how to implement an audio-based social app using Sendbird Calls. Third, I'm going to talk about integrating other SDKs into the application. Fourth, you can ask me any questions and I will try to answer them. Okay, so first, what is Sendbird Calls? Many of you guys might not have heard of it because it's the latest product that we launched. And it's a WebRTC-based SDK that provides one-to-one direct calls and group calling features between multiple users. So WebRTC is a framework created by Google, and it's a real-time communications technology that allows you to build audio and video calls. And our Calls SDK is a wrapper on top of Google's WebRTC, and it allows you to build high quality voice and video calls for web and mobile apps. And it is much more easier to build this kind of features with our SDK than using Google's WebRTC straight out of the box. So as many of you guys probably already know, there has been an application called Clubhouse that has been trending a lot earlier this year. And Clubhouse brought up the concept of bringing people together in a closed room audio interactions and building a community inside the application. So people really enjoyed being able to talk to each other inside the application, and other social media services like Discord, Twitter, and Facebook introduced similar concepts inside their own applications and launched services like Twitter Spaces and Facebook Live Audio Rooms. And this kind of experience through audio group calls has been really interesting in terms of user engagement. So we are going to try to achieve similar experience using Sendbird Calls. And today we are going to use a feature called Rooms in Sendbird Calls. So Rooms is a feature name for group calling in Sendbird Calls. And there are two type of rooms in Sendbird Calls. So the first one is video call rooms. And video call rooms can serve up to 6 participants. And the other type of room is audio only calls. And this type of room can have up to 25 participants. But this 25 participant limit is subject to increase after thorough testing. And our server team is currently doing a load testing with the number of participants. And it's theoretically possible with thousands of users, but we are keeping it low right now to keep things safe. And today I am going to use Sendbird Chat and UIKit briefly and integrate it into our Birdhouse application as well. And this will be used to host chat inside the audio room. So let's say a user enters the audio group call and really enjoys being inside the conversation, but is in a situation where they can't talk. So they might want to join in the conversation by just group channel. So we are going to host group channel inside the audio room as well. And we are going to use group channel to initiate one-to-one direct messages with specific participants in a room as well. And using UIKit will allow us to build chat experience much more quickly and simply. So we're going to use UIKit for that. And here is the overall architecture for the Birdhouse application that we are going to use today. And at the middle, you see the Sendbird server with a list of audio group calls and group channels. And users can join into one of these channels to participate in the audio group call and group channel. And users can also launch direct messages with each other separately as well. So let's look at the code implementation. So before we do that, here is the final build product of the sample we're going to build today. So let's see, first, let's pick a username to sign into the Birdhouse application. And once we log in, we see a list of rooms here that are currently open. And all of these rooms are audio only group calls. And we can join into one of these rooms to participate in the discussion. And then this is the button to participate in the group chat. And you can mute and unmute yourself and leave the room. And you can also create a room with your desired room title. So that's how the overall app looks like. And let's look at the code. And today's presentation will be mainly for iOS development, but most of the interface regarding Sendbird Calls, Chat, and UIKit SDKs will be similar for Android and JavaScript as well. So you can just follow along. And if you want to learn more about how to implement a similar feature sets in other platforms, you can also refer to our documentations and blog posts on our website. So let's take a look at the storyboard file first. So a storyboard is a UI generating tool for iOS development. And inside here, we see 3 main view screens. And the first one is for sign-in view controller. So when we sign in, we have 2 text fields. So users can enter their user ID and nickname, and they can press this button to move on to the channel list view controller. And inside this channel list view controller, there is a table view or a list view that has a list of channel cells or list of open group calls. And users can click one of these group call cells to enter the channel and move to channel view controller. And inside the channel view controller, there is the title for the channel, button to enter group channel, button to mute or unmute yourself, and button to leave. And there is this UI collection view or a grid view, which has grid items of participants currently participating in the call. And each participant will have a profile image, a nickname, a profile image, and user muted status image as well. So, and then we also have the button to create the room. And that's how the overall app's user interface looks like. And let's first look at the app delegate file. So the app delegate file is the file that is first launched when you First, open the application. So inside here, you want to do main configurations. And here we are going to initialize the Sendbird SDKs. So before you want to interact with Sendbird SDKs, you have to initialize the SDK with your application ID from the Sendbird dashboard. So I'm going to use my application ID here. And I'm going to initialize the Sendbird SDKs by calling these three methods. So these three methods initialize the Sendbird chat, Sendbird call, and Sendbird UIKit SDKs. And after this is done, you can safely interact with Sendbird SDKs. Okay, so let's first take a look at the sign-in view controller. So inside this sign-in view controller, we are authenticating the user. So in order to work with the Sendbird SDKs, you have to be authenticated with the Sendbird server. And to authenticate, you first have to create the authenticate parameters. And inside here, you want to provide the user ID of the user. And you can optionally provide access token to log in the user with. And then you call Sendbird call that authenticate the parameters. So in here, inside the sign-in method, we are going to grab the user ID and nickname from the user ID text field and nickname text field. And then we will authenticate with calls first. So we create authenticate parameters and we call Sendbird call that authenticate. And because we are also going to host Sendbird chats group channel inside every audio room as well, we will have to connect with chat SDK as well. So we will do that by calling svd main.connect with user ID. And then this will connect us to the chat server as well. And after we are connected with the calls and chat SDKs, we will grab a random image from a random image generator. And we will use this image to update the current user's information. So we will call svd main.update current user info with the nickname that the user has provided and a random image. And we will perform a segue, which is a movement from a view to another. So we will move from the sign-in view controller to this channel list view controller. Okay, then let's take a look at the Sendbird channel list view controller. So inside this channel list view controller, we have a list of rooms. So we are going to grab a list of room from the server with this room list query. And we are going to store the queried rooms into this list of room. And this table view or a list view will look at these list of rooms to calculate the number of rows or items inside this table view. And it will also refer to the items inside the room to draw the contents inside each of these cells. So every item inside this table view will correspond to a room item inside this array. And we will update this rooms array whenever we have fetched new rooms from the query. So to query the room list from Sendbird server, we first have to create room list query parameters. So inside this room list query parameters, we can add properties and filters to the query results. So for example, we can add room type filter to the query results. So right now, we only want to get the rooms that are audio only. So we can add a filter for that. We can also add a room state filter to get, for example, open rooms only. And we can add a limit on the number of maximum query results to be returned at a time. So because this query works as a pagination, this query will result like 10 items at a time. And if you call query next, it will return the next 10 items of the list. So you can specify how many number of items you want to get for each call to the query. And then to actually query the room list, you first want to check that there are more results to be queried from the server. And you also want to check the query is not currently loading, so that you don't do duplicate work at a time. So we perform this sanity check, and then we call this query.next, and it will return a list of rooms or an error from the server. Okay, so when we first launch or open this channel list view controller, this load channels function is called, and inside this function, we are going to create a room query. So first we create the room list query parameters. And as I said, we set the type filter to be for large room for audio only. And we also set the state filter to only get the currently open rooms. And then we are going to create a query by calling Sendbird Call that create room list query. And then we'll use this created query object to query the room list. So here we are performing the sanity check and calling query.next. And if the returned list of room is valid, we are adding it to our list of rooms that we have locally, and we are going to call table view.reload data. And what this function does is this table view will look at the array of room we have here, and it will look at this array and determine if it needs to add more items to the list or remove some items from the list. So we can do that there. So that's how the table view works. And let's look at the creating a room. So to create a room, you first have to create a room parameters. And using these parameters, you can specify the room type that it's going to be, and also provide custom items if you want to add optional metadata to your room. And you create the room by calling Sendbird Call that create room with parameters. So what is this custom items? So the custom items is a string-to-string key value object that is stored with the room object, and it can store up to 10 items. And this can be used to store information like category, type, and other metadata and information associated with the room. So it's basically a metadata for room object. And here we are using custom items to store the title information of the room. So here we first create the room parameters. So we create the room parameters with the room type of large room for audio only. And we set the custom items to be a dictionary with key of title and value of title that the user has entered. And we call Sendbird Call that create room with parameters. And then we are also creating a group channel that will be hosted inside this audio room. And to do that, we create SPD group channel parameters, and we set the channel parameters channel URL to be the room's room ID. And its name will be the title that the user has specified. And it's also going to be a public channel, so anyone can join into the channel. And we call SPD group channel dot create channel with channel parameters. And after all that is done, we are going to insert the created room at the top of our list here. And we are going to reload the table view so that the user sees the new created room on top of the list. And then let's look at entering a room. So when the user clicks on one of these table view cells, it will enter the room. And to enter a room, you have to first create a room enter parameters and specify is audio enabled and is video enabled flags. So setting these flags will allow you to configure the user's media status before entering the room. So if you don't want new participants entering the room from interrupting ongoing discussions, you can set the is audio enabled flag set as false. And you could also have user join with their video disabled first, and users can choose to enable it when they want to. So that's how you configure the room enter parameters. And then you call room enter with parameters, and that's it. So here we call room enter with parameters. So the parameter we have here will have the is audio enabled flag set as false, and we will enter the room and perform another segue from the channel list view controller to this channel view controller. So inside this channel view controller, we have the room object, and first we have to set the room delegate. So a room delegate is basically an event listener that notifies you about events that happen in the room. So events can include a new participant entering the room, or existing participant exiting the room, or a participant muting or unmuting themselves in the room. And you can listen to these events and implement the room delegates and handle UI updates when it is necessary. So first, we are setting the room delegate here by calling room.addDelegate to self, an identifier with the room's room ID. And this identifier can be anything that you want, and it just has to be a unique string value. And down here, we have the actual implementation of the room delegates. And we are implementing participant enter events and participant exit events. So when a new participant enters or an existing participant exits the room, we want to update this collection view so that the existing user disappears from this participant list, or the new user appears on this collection view. So we're going to call collection view reload data. As what the collection view actually does is it will look at the room's participants and determine the number of cells required in the collection view cell. And each cell will represent a room's participant. And each participant will be a participant cell. And it's going to use the participant data, like participant's user ID or nickname, or participant's audio enabled status, or participant's profile image URL to configure the cells here. So that's how we configure the cell with participant information. And then if we go back up, we can implement exiting the room. So to leave a room, you call room.exit. And because this can throw an error, you have to call it with try, which is a Swift syntax. And this can throw an error, for example, when the user is not in the room, but the user tries to exit the room. Here, inside this leave function, we call room.exit, and we are going to wrap it inside this do catch block. And after we exit from the room, we are going to dismiss this current view controller, and we are going to go back to this channel list view controller. So that's how we exit the room. And then we have this mute microphone button. When the user presses this mute microphone button, we will first check if the room's local participants or the local users audio is enabled. And if the audio is currently enabled, we want to turn the audio off. So we will call room.localParticipants mute microphone, which will turn off the audio of the local participants. And we will also update the microphone's image. And if the local participant's audio is not enabled, we will unmute the microphone so that the audio can be enabled again. And we will update the microphone button's image as well. And lastly, we have this show chat button. And for this, we have UIKit integration. So to integrate UIKit into our application, first we have to get the group channel object using the group channel's URL. And if you remember, we created the group channel with its channel URL to be the room's room ID for convenience. So we only need the room's room ID to get the group channel object. And after we get the group channel object from the server, we create the SBU channel view controller with the channel object. So this SBU channel view controller, this is a pre-made UI component provided by the UIKit SDK. So this has every UI components and features implemented right off the box. And it has screens like chat screen, participant screen, or other features that are involved with the group channel. And all we have to do is we have to just create this view controller and present this view controller. So down here, we are showing the chat channel by first creating SVU channel view controller with the group channel object. And we are going to wrap it inside this navigation controller, which is iOS specific implementation. And we are just going to present this navigation controller wrapper, and everything next will be handled by the UIKit SDK. So it's only this 4-line or 2-line to implement group channel features inside the application using UIKit. So it's that simple. And lastly, we have this channel title label. And we set this channel title label when this channel view controller is first loaded. And we set the title label to be the room's title. And this room's title variable is an extension that I actually created. So this title variable will look at room's custom items and access the custom item dictionary with the key of title. And if you want to update the custom items or the title information of the room, you call update custom items with the custom items of the updated dictionary, and that will update the title information of the room. And also there are other functions related to custom items in the room, like delete custom items or get custom items. So you might also want to check those out if you need them. And I think that's all there is to it with the implementation of the application itself. So let's try to run it on a simulator. And it's going to take a bit of time. Okay, so I went through a small portion of the entire code base in this project, but most of the code that I haven't covered today is mostly associated with the user interface handling. And the core logic of handling Sendbird Calls SDK, Chat SDK, and UIKit SDK is very simple. And if you want to take a look at the user interface handling that I haven't covered today, you can check them out in the GitHub that will be posted in the Zoom chat. And you can also check out the documentations and blog posts about Sendbird Calls in our website. So I think the application finished loading. So here we are going to enter user ID and a nickname and log into the application. And I'm going to grab another simulator running, and I'm going to enter another user ID. And I'll have the right simulator enter this room first. And if you reload this table view on the left, you see that the participant count of this good morning channel has increased to 1, and there is participant user ID. And if we enter with this simulator as well, we see that both users are inside the channel now. And then we can open the group channel by clicking this button. And as you see here, the group channel is working as well. And there are other features like channel information and sending photos or files inside this UIKit as well. And you can mute or unmute yourself using this button, but I'm not going to do that right now because it's going to create an audio feedback loop. And I think that's it with the app implementation and testing. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, Minhyuk, for doing that. So yes, if anyone has any questions, feel free to either just turn on your camera and ask, or just ask in the audio, or post it in the chat while people write some questions. I have a quick question for you, Minhyuk. If somebody wants to run the demo app that we posted, what do they need to do to get that demo to get up and running? Like changing the team or changing some API keys. What steps do people need to do to get that demo up and running on their own system?
So first, they would have to install Xcode and have their developer account ready to run the application. And they would also need an application ID from our Sendbird dashboard and have rooms enabled. And once they do that, they can just initialize the Sendbird SDKs with the application ID that I talked about. And then that would be enough to just run the application on the simulator. And you could also run it in your own physical devices and actually test the apps working with the audio as well.
Nice. And if so, people are probably going to want to test with multiple devices. Do you recommend maybe running on a simulator and then also on someone's devices, or just two simulators is good enough to kind of get a feel for it?
If you have multiple devices, that would be better to run it on physical devices so that you can actually test it. But if you don't, you could run it on simulator, but running audio on the simulator with two devices will create audio feedback loop. So you have to keep that in mind before testing.
Before I ask my question, there was some questions that some people have posted during the registration process. One person had asked what platforms can someone build an audio chat room like what you did for iOS? What other platforms do we support?
So with Sendbird Calls, we support iOS, Android, and JavaScript SDKs. So you can basically build on iPhones, Android phones, and on web applications as well.
Cool,
so,
great.
Yeah.
And another person had asked, how scalable is this implementation? And I think they're asking how scalable is the Sendbird backend, but yeah.
So currently the maximum number of participants in a room is 25, which is quite low, but our server team is currently doing a load testing with the number of devices. So we are theoretically, thinking we can do this for thousands of users, but until we have tested it safely, it's going to be, 25 users. But if you're interested, you can contact us, and we can prioritize it like higher.
Okay, great. And the 25-person limitation, that's just for one given room, right? If is there currently a limitation on the number of rooms that one app can handle?
No, there is no limit on the number of rooms in an app. And as far as I know, there is no billing for each number of rooms created. So you can create as much as room you want to create. And if a user actually joins the room and has a audio group call inside the room, then only that time period will be billed to your account.
Cool, nice. And I had one question earlier about your implementation. Shoot, can't remember what it was, but it was a good one. Okay, well, if it comes back to me, I'll ask it later. Did anyone in the audience have a question for Minhyuk?
Jason, There's a question in the chat right
Oh,
now.
there is.
Yeah.
How do I contact? Oh,
And there's one from Kunal about encryption.
oh, will we? Okay, yes. Kunal had asked, will we be able to use encryption like KMS? I'm not familiar with what KMS is.
I'm not familiar with KMS either.
Yeah. Kunal, could you give us a little more details?
And
yeah, it's something like the encryption keys, like the in AWS you use the KMS server, like the key value pair, something like that. How will you like encrypt the code?
So are you asking if the audio stream can be encrypted before passing into
Yes.
Sendbird?
Yeah.
Minhyuk, do you know?
I think Sendbird Calls is HIPAA compliant, and I think the audio streams are in fact encrypted by WebRTC itself. So I assume it has some encryption ready, but I'm not really an expert on encryption. So
Okay, cool.
Okay.
If we find more information on that, Kunal, we'll send you an email about that. And Jared asked, how do I contact? Jared, are you asking how you contact one of us or Sendbird in general? If it's Sendbird in general, then we do have a community site that you go to and you can post questions there. I will post our LinkedIn information in a few minutes if you want to contact us that way. So I'll post both options for you here.
no, this was great. Thank you, Minhyuk. And if anyone has more questions that they think of, please, just shoot us an email.
Thank you.
Okay, I've posted a LinkedIn. Sorry, I posted LinkedIn's for Minhyuk, myself, and Michelle. So if you want to connect it to us that way, you can and ask us questions or just get in touch with us. Okay, so just to wrap this up, so next month, December 7th, Michelle will be presenting the next Code Cafe. Michelle, do you want to real quickly describe what that Code Cafe will be about?
Yeah, so I'll just be going over how to customize UIKit and create a Discord-like clone with that. And yeah, it'd be a fun dive in, and I'm excited to share with everyone.
Cool. I just posted a link in the chat for more information and if you want to register for the next Code Cafe, again on December 7th. Okay, let's see. I think that is it. Thank you everyone for attending. Thank you again, Minhyuk, for doing this. This was really great. Yeah, thank you again, and we'll see you next time.